Hey, welcome back to another episode of Realty Resilience. My name is Dave Nations, the host of the podcast, and I'm really excited about our episode today. As you guys know, our goal is to bring you top agents around the country who are doing some really cool things, and I'm really excited about our interview today with Gretchen Kingma because she is doing some really cool things. Gretchen, how's it going today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for you to come on and share your story and what you have going on. If you wouldn't mind, I want to just jump in here and share some background on your story and what got you into real estate, and then how long you've been in it.
Yeah, cool. So I got into real estate 8 years ago after being an occupational therapist. For those of you that don't know what the heck an occupational therapist is, very similar to a physical therapist, but does balance, strength, cognition, memory, endurance for the purpose of an activity at home. So I help people do what they want and need to do after a major life change, whether that be cancer, hip replacement, stroke, Parkinson's, et cetera, et cetera. And I loved that work, got into that work because I wanted to help people. What they don't tell you in graduate school is that healthcare is more of a business than any business, and you don't actually get to help people. You actually write a lot of notes and are pressured to make money for the business that you work for. And so I became burnt out in healthcare super fast. And I was going on maternity leave with my very first kiddo, and she turns 8 tomorrow. So actually, 8 years exactly.
Wow,
Told my
congrats.
yeah, told my therapy director, I'll see you in 12 weeks after I have this maternity leave. And I went home and I told my husband, I'm never going back there, and we have 12 weeks to figure this out. But I looked up this real estate thing, and I could get my, while on maternity leave, I could get my license and off to the races from there. And so I had this mindset that I didn't really tell anyone, but I had a friend from church who was at Keller Williams, and I watched him build a business. And I just had coffee with him, and I said, like, is this crazy? If OT's, occupational therapist job, is to keep people happy, healthy, and thriving at home, then why are more OTs not proactively educating people on home? I would love to like do what you're doing in real estate, but keep my, healthcare bend. And he was like, I mean, his name's Adam Moskal. Shout out to him. But he was like, I think it's genius. Let's get you in touch with the people that can help you get licensed. And so he was my biggest supporter and helped me jump in. And I told myself I will quit being a full-time OT once I replaced that OT salary. And I was able to do that within my first 4 months of real estate. And the rest is history. So that's my story of getting into real estate.
It's awesome. So, first thing that sticks out to me, well, there's a lot there, but one of the last things you just said was you matched your salary within the first 4 months of jumping into real estate. There's so
Isn't that
many.
pathetic? It's kind of sad.
Actually, that's pretty amazing because the
Sad
really
for healthcare.
think about it from, well, I'm thinking about it from a real estate standpoint and the
Hmm.
amount of people that get in and then get out within 18 months because they can't get off the ground, and you're able to match your income within 4 months. What did you do? What worked that got you off the ground so quickly?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have occupational therapists come to me all the time and ask, how did you do this? And I tell them at the beginning, you have to do everything. So it's opposite of what I teach and preach now, but I would take anything that I could get. And I would be in the office every single day. I plugged into the coaching. They told me to make contacts. I didn't even know what the heck that meant because I came from a healthcare background, but I just did the things that I was told to do. And it kept working, which was crazy. So I was the open house hustler. I was the cold caller. I called FISBOs. I did expireds. I held open houses. I networked my butt off. Now at 35, I can't imagine grinding the way that I did, but it allowed me to, like I said, replace that full-time OT salary and then jump in and actually build the business how I wanted to. So I just did what they told me to do.
Yes, also as you were transitioning from your real job to being a realtor, how does that conversation with your spouse? Because I also think that that's a huge piece. When people jump into this business, they need to have support from their partner, their spouse, and making sure that they're fully on board because this is a huge commitment. And like you just said, you pretty much have to do everything out of the gate for however long it takes to you to make it, and make whatever money is you're trying to make. So what was that conversation like? How did that go? Was he like, yeah, absolutely, no problem, go?
Yeah, I just told this story to a close friend a couple days ago. right after our daughter was born, it was our anniversary, and we took a train to Herman, Missouri to go to the wineries. And I was like, okay, it's just us on this train. I'm going to tell him my grand idea. And I like thought this through, had the licensure exam set up, the nighttime class. So I went at night when he would get home from work so he could take care of the baby. And I told him, and on the way there, he was like, I'm sorry, what? And he has an MBA and is very risk adverse. I am the quite opposite. Love a good risk because I know that there's going to be a lot of reward. So I told him, I envisioned this. I know that baby boomers are growing in population. I only ever worked with seniors in my clinical role, adults and seniors, not just seniors, but basically like 25 to 105. I never worked with kids. So I just told him the trends that I saw and the brokenness in the healthcare system. We would discharge people home and they would come right back a week, a month, a year later. We had so many repeat offenders. And the reason was because home never changed. And so I tried to educate him on, like, actually, I've thought this through. And I do think that there's a way to make a big impact here and still get to help people, which is why I went into this industry. And the whole way there, he kind of listened. But after a day of wine and then on the way back, he was like, okay, I think you have something here. So it took a good day and a lot of wine consumed. But by the
Yeah,
end,
how
he
many
was very
bottles later was he
supportive.
like, all right, let's do this?
Yes. So he was super supportive by the end of the day.
Next day,
But
though, it
I
changes.
mean, rightfully so. I had six figures of med school debt because my OT program was through St. Louis University's med school. And so like he wasn't crazy to push back on me. Still had a big chunk of that left, but yeah, we were able to pay that off within 5 years of me graduating because we were so intentional and because he does ask hard questions and push back. So it's a good balance. I would say supportive after wine, but asked the right questions and pushed back where he needed to.
So good to know. So then, first year in, what'd you close your first year? Do you remember?
I do remember, I want to say volume wise, 7 or 8 million and 16 transactions. I was one transaction shy of being rookie of the year. I was not bitter at all, but the person that won beat me by one measly transaction.
Is in one more.
No, I guess not. I was nursing a baby.
So safe to assume after your first year, then your husband was definitely on board after selling 7 to 8 million.
Yeah, we even bought a rental property my
Then in that
second year.
first year, so you also bought a
Second
rental.
year.
Okay, all right,
Second year, yeah.
great. How many rentals do you currently have?
Only two, but we're on the hunt for more.
Great. So then year one, you get in, you do 16 transactions. How much of it were you able to start really focusing in on that senior space that you were touching on, or was it just all in, do deals right now? I just got to triage, so to speak, and make money so I can get out from one end to the other or into the other.
Yeah, I would say the latter, and it was two part. One, I had to just take whatever I could so I could pay off the student debt I had. But two, I had a mindset blocker of like people aren't going to take me seriously. I have this master's degree, advanced degree in a healthcare profession where I quite literally was saving lives some days, and now I'm slinging houses. So I had this huge like mental block that kept me from marketing myself as that senior specialist. And my second year, I entered into a partnership with a very seasoned agent from our office who I thought it was going to be it was great during the time. And I learned a ton from this person, but I realized that that person saw way more in me than I saw in myself. And after doing 77 deals with that individual and realizing that I brought in 62% of that business and we were splitting everything 50-50, I thought, gosh, I think I can do this by myself. So that was like middle of year two into year three. Got a ton of experience through partnership, which was great. A ton of experience right out of the gate, learned so much so quickly, but I didn't double down on my passion for seniors and people with disabilities until much later, frankly.
So in year two, this is exact, but you basically went from doing 16 transactions to 77 with a partner at that
With a
point.
partner. Yeah, with a
Did you
partner.
guys have admin as well, or was it just the two of you and then like a
Just the two
transaction?
of us and a transaction coordinator. Yeah.
So what? what changed there? And 62% of that business was from you. So how are you going out and generating this business again? Now you're in year two and you're doing more than people will do in 3 or 4 years total, for some agents out there. So how are you doing this?
Again, I am just like a doer of the thing. So somebody told me about BNI and they said BNI works. You should get in a BNI. So I went and visited every BNI until one would take me. I mean, it's not the way I want to do business ever again, but in that phase, like I was a hustler and I was building relationships and it allowed me to level up my professionalism because I could tell people this is my expertise. This is what I want to. So I joined a BNI. I did not miss a week without hitting my call number, anywhere between 25, 50, and when we're doing craziness, like 100 contacts a week. So I just like did the things. I plugged into Bold, I did coaching, and it just seemed to work. And
Stay
all of
so consistent.
Yeah, really, I think one, I'm sick in the head. I am so competitive and also like had this looming, semi-supportive husband that needed wine to be full and supportive. Like I had that looming and I wanted to prove myself. And I mean, he went to WashU and has a MBA. And so like he understands business very well. I felt like I needed to prove myself, not from like a you need a marriage counselor thing, but just like, okay, I've made this huge change. I have to make this work. So it was really internal, like intrinsic motivation.
You do that, you have the partnership, and that lasts for a year. How long did you do that? And then what happened?
2 years, two
Okay, a
years.
couple years.
Yeah, 2 years. And then fall of year two of the partnership, I kind of just pushed back and said this economic model doesn't make sense for me. And it was met with not a ton of collaboration. And so that was just affirmation that I could just do this by myself. So obviously, no ill will towards that individual, but I just decided I'm going to try this by myself. So I've been an independent agent ever since. I guess I have a small team. I have one partner, and she's my showing director, does all my showings, and then she also is starting to do some of the listing tasks as well, some of the listing admin. And then I have a VA that is strictly for my social media. So that is my team makeup currently.
So you, I think, specialize, I would say, in a couple of things. One, you're focused on working with seniors, right? And
Mhm.
it's interesting because you originally were doing everything and working anywhere to get anything, it sounds like, essentially open houses, BNI, networking, whatever. And now it sounds like you're very focused on this niche. I don't know which way you say it. And then I also think what you do really well is with social media and how you've really been able to promote what you're passionate about with social media. So I think social media is a huge thing that everyone's always obsessed with, especially in real estate, and everyone wants to be the next major influencer or whatever it is. So how did you get into kind of combining the both of these and becoming so good at both of them? Again, you're really good at being consistent because I would say your social media presence is very consistent. And then obviously what you're doing on the senior space over the last few years anyway, I would say has been pretty consistent because of your track record there as well. So what point in your career here in the 8 years did you finally get in and really start being able to do what you're passionate about and help educate and help people, on the senior side as that OT, formerly known as, but then also
Yeah.
selling. So how did that all start to really come together for you?
Yeah. So, not to, I mean, your warning for anybody who's lost a parent to cancer, but it was really when my dad was diagnosed with cancer in 2020, 2018, 19, had this partnership, got out of that in early 2020. Mid 2020, my dad is diagnosed with stage four cancer, and it kind of flipped everything upside down. Uh, and I ended up actually taking a W 2 position from a company that reached out to me on LinkedIn and told me that they're looking for somebody with healthcare and real estate expertise. So it was like the first time that I was like, this is a thing. People want these skill sets. Again, like the mindset I never saw a ton in myself, but other people would always see it in me or value that experience. So took a little hiatus. And I say hiatus. I did 20 deals while not really trying, while working for this startup full time W-2, but I took a W-2 role because they paid great. And the product that they were trying to build was very in line with my passion. After 8 months, I realized one, my dad is dying and I don't need to be working. And two, the company's what they were selling was not what they were delivering. And so ethically, I just got out. So at the end of 2021, no, 2022, I stopped all real estate. I didn't do anything. I sat with my dad every single day. But the one thing I did do during that time is kept posting online. So I would say that it was probably an unhealthy habit, but it was a distraction from my dying dad in his hospital bed. But I would post on Instagram every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, just valuable stuff about what I was good at: accessibility, aging in place, real estate, the market. you know, only did 20 deals that year that I quit, like that I stopped work, but I would just repost the content. Like these, we pay $500 for these listing photos. Why do we only post them when the listing goes live and then closes? Like you can post stuff over and over and over again. So I just did that while I was sitting with my dad. And he passed away at the end of 2022. And then 2023, like January 2nd, because I was with my family on New Year's Day, I like sent out a newsletter to my whole sphere and posted online, like, I am back and I am open for business essentially. And that year I did 10 million and 30 transactions, and I didn't go to a networking group. I didn't do BNI. It was only social media. And so I was like, huh, this is interesting. Like I quite literally never picked up the phone. I just had genuine like relationships with people online, which sounds so weird. My husband's only 3 years older than me. He thinks it's like the most bizarre thing. He thinks I'm some like, yeah, weird millennial Gen Zer, but whatever. So yeah, I learned during that really hard time where I pressed pause on the grind that like there's a way to stay in front of people super easily and free. And that's kind of,
Posting stuff out there, but not expecting anything at that point. When your dad was sick and you're just dropping content on real estate and whatever it is, but you're just doing it just to make sure people don't forget about you, or because you're
yeah,
bored,
I
or
told you I'm
both.
sick in the head. Like I wanted to be relevant. Like I couldn't let people forget about me. I gave two referrals out during that time from people that were like, so can you help me? I was like, no, I can't. Like my mom still works full time. I'm the only one with healthcare background. I'm home with my dad so that he can get to the bathroom, do all the stuff. But there was no like direct call to action or, lead generation component. It was just like posting. And it's fascinating. Like, I teach a course on social media, and I just spoke 2 weeks ago, and I put up on the screen like my grid from that time frame and then my grid from today. And like the stuff I was posting was terrible. It's actually a little bit embarrassing, but it doesn't matter because it's just the consistency. So I always tell people, like typically we all want quality over quantity when it comes to relationships and friends and clients, but in social media, it's all about quantity over quality until you can get to the quality.
Did you know that going into this, or were you just like, I'm just posting just because? But you really didn't have much of an understanding on because like you just said, now you're teaching classes on it and educating others. So I'm guessing the way it works now, you really have a good understanding. Whereas before you're just posting stuff and then realizing this does work.
Yeah, I definitely did not have a strong understanding. I've always like likened Instagram in particular to like a cocktail party. And I don't know if this is because I like grew up in the age of AOL and chat rooms and things like that, or if I'm just a weirdo, but I just thought like you're not supposed to just, I mean, Facebook used to have a function where you could poke people. That's so weird. Like you're not supposed to just like get on Facebook and like things. If you go to a cocktail party and you just like give somebody a thumbs up, that's very creepy. You're supposed to engage and have a conversation. And so I think it like came out of it being this like therapeutic escape for me when my dad was sick to reach out to other realtors. Like I have so many internet friends from across the United States where I would just ask them about their business or, people that I wanted to work with, people that I identified as like, I would love to help you buy your move up home because I know that you're having your second child. I would just message them on Instagram, not a text, not a cold call, but I would just message them about something that they already posted. So meeting them where they're at online, it just was easy for me.
I've never heard somebody say it that way. At least I don't think I have. But that, if you're at a party, you're not gonna like, when somebody, when you
Yeah.
see somebody, but you wouldn't do anything. You would either talk to them or you just ignore them or walk right by, whatever, right? But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You scroll on social media and you like 40 things. I didn't say a word to anybody. So that's a
Yeah.
funny way to look at it. And it almost changes your perspective that fast, at least for me, like it's like, why wouldn't I have said no? Hey, congrats or whatever, as opposed to just like, yeah,
Hmm.
later. So that's a great way to look at it. So then, so you got in, you started doing this just because at the time, but then your first year back, and you said you did 10 million, and all you were doing was social media. Was there a plan? Did you start putting that in place at that time, or was it looking back and going, oh man, I just did 10 million and I didn't pick up the phone?
No, it was people reaching out to me. Like when I would post, okay, like I'm back. Who do you know looking, are your parents thinking about downsizing? Are you looking to bring education? Like that year, I spoke to so many rehab hospitals. So I guess I'm a little bit of a renegade. I say I do the things they tell me to do, but instead of like doing first time home buyer seminars, I thought about if I want to work with last time home buyers or downsizers, where do I need to meet them? And I would do like a call on Instagram or in my newsletter and just say like, are you looking for education for a lunch and learn? I'm happy to come teach on universal design or aging in place. So I got in front of people that knew like who were me, who were the past version of me. And then I started posting, but that experience of like helping my parents, minor detail in that time period, I had to help my parents downsize out of like very quick necessity, not preparedness. And it was the most stressful thing. And we just put a full size dumpster, filled it up 3 times, and they got rid of all their stuff. And it was like a terrible, terrible deal because basically my dad woke up one morning and couldn't do steps. And so I thought, like, how can I take this personal experience, marry it with this professional experience, and that be the only thing I talk about? And so I knew that social media was working because people were reaching out to me like in my DMs. People were sliding into my DMs, and one chick I never met, and I use her in presentations. Like I tell everyone, my avatar is Kara, and Kara is the first person that made me have this realization because she messaged me and said, "I've been following you for months. I know you don't know me, but my in-laws," so she's not even the eldest adult daughter, she's the eldest adult in-law because this husband and wife only have sons. I hope you have a sister, right? Do you have a sister? Okay, good. I'm sure you and your brother are great. And it's
Absolutely.
always the females that are like taking care of the aging parents. So she says, like, they really need to get out of their house. Here's where they live. And she sends me their address, like through Instagram. She's never met me from Adam, and she's giving me her in law's address. So I knew, like, okay, these people trust me because they see me on here every day. And I was able to help her in laws sell and downsize to a senior living community. I just started to build off of that.
Your avatar, which I've heard you talk about
As a
before, named Kara, is the real person. I always thought it had to do with care, like you care, but it's actually not. It's well, maybe it is that too. It works out that way.
Yeah.
But that's fascinating. Okay. We'll have to dive into the avatar here in a minute as well and explain kind of how that works and whatnot. So then I'm curious, are you getting a lot of people or have you gotten a lot of people that'll call you and say, hey, because I think an interesting concept. You're helping people age in place. You're teaching them what they need to do in order to make their home better for them to live there. But you're a realtor, so you don't get paid to do that, right? You only get paid to help them buy that house or sell the house. So how did you integrate that in? How is that helping you? Or is it one of those you go in and you talk to people and they explain that and they're like, you know what, I'll just sell
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sell their house.
So I actually was getting paid for that because I'm still a licensed occupational therapist and I keep my CEUs and I keep my licensure up. So on my website, you will see like a living in place plan offering. And so in real estate, we go on listing appointments all the time that may not yield to business. And that just that didn't sit well with me when I'm adding that healthcare component. Like, yes, of course, like I'll work my butt off and give you all the information so that you can trust me and hire me to be your agent. But if I'm utilizing that six-figure degree of mine, like I feel like I should be getting paid. So I also market the living in place plan where I go in and do a true home assessment. And I was getting paid 500 to 550 to do that. And it's about an hour of time interviewing and taking a look at the home, and then an hour and a half hour to an hour. So like 2 hours total plus drive time to write up a report and tell them all the things they need to do. And that was starting to yield to listings because they're like, crap, we've got to tear out these concrete steps and pour a brand new sloped entryway. So I did make sure that I was getting compensated for that level of work. And now, actually, a shameless plug that I know I've talked to you about offline. I actually have a little side hustle with a startup called Dwell Safe. They have engaged me to be their director of real estate engagement and strategy. They are making realtors aging experts overnight. So they've created a software where instead of being an OT spending an hour, you as their agent can offer this to a client by taking your phone on the listing appointment, scanning every room, and then it spits back a fall risk indicator score that's AI driven. And then within 24 hours, you get a full written report from an occupational therapist making recommendations. And so another similar startup reaches out to me because of my combined experience, but these people are actually the real deal and they're doing really good work. So I'm super passionate about educating agents on how they too can be that aging in place expert by leveraging healthcare.
Hey, it's Dave. If you're a real estate agent doing well on the surface, but secretly drowning in to-dos, unsure what to delegate, and wondering how the heck you're supposed to grow this thing, you're not alone. You're stuck between hiring an assistant or a buyer's agent. Your systems live in your head and your calendar is running you instead of the other way around. That's why I built the Cornerstone course, to help agents like you build a real estate business with clarity, confidence, and systems that actually work. And right now, it's just $100 during our summer sale, normally $397. Hit the link in the show notes and take the first real step toward growing on your terms.
Expertise.
So you're kind of you're like a design consultant in a sense in coming in and saying, hey, here's what you need to do. And or somebody who wants to come in and remodel their house, but for different purposes, not because they just want a new kitchen or a new bathroom. You're doing it to make it more functional. And then, because of that, they're either saying, great, hey, cool, send me some contractors that can do this. Or, wow, this is way more than I anticipated. It'll just be easier for us to downsize and we'll take the cash and instead of spending it on stuff to stay here, we'll move and go somewhere else. So interesting lead gen tool, essentially.
Absolutely. And when it's the first option, you gain so much trust from the client and the adult children that you're not just trying to put a sign in the yard. Like when you can bring that value, my most favorite, you didn't ask, but my most favorite client experience was a referral. So this was like year 2 or 3, a referral from the ALS Association for an OT realtor. I go to this house and the husband is the one that calls me. He has ALS, super terrible disease. And he tells me, we need to move tomorrow. Like my arms are getting weaker. We've got to move ASAP. I'm like, okay, this is my process. I will come. We'll have a meeting. I'll learn what's most important. I'll give you what you can get for your current, it was a villa, your current villa. And I asked in the initial consult if you could stay here. Like if I had a vision that would allow you to stay here for a lot less than buying a new place, would that be preferred? And the wife just starts crying. And she's like, "You think that's possible?" I'm like, "Absolutely, that's possible." Mr. Owner isn't doing laundry anymore, is he? I hate to be crass, but he's not. And she's like, "No, I do all the laundry." I'm like, "So you have this beautiful laundry room on the main floor and it butts up to this teeny tiny powder room. What if you brought your laundry upstairs to your bedroom? So you took care of all the laundry and you make this bathroom huge. And then you're adding value because you have a main floor full bathroom." And so they did stay. And I got multiple referrals from them after the contractor that I referred did a great
Referrals to
job.
buy and sell or referrals for more work? Cool.
2 for buy and sell, 1 for more work.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
Yeah. So it is, I am very passionate about just like coming from a consultative approach. I wouldn't call myself a design consultant, but definitely a consultative approach to make sure that it is the right.
It's very cool. So being hyper focused on one thing has really, would you say it's been the game changer for your business?
Yes, absolutely. And it took me like there was a lot to get there. I was like, well, what if my best friend from high school doesn't call me when her husband gets that raise and they don't use me to buy that move up house and sell their first time house? So like there was all this, but I would say that like the more I've niched down and post and scream one agenda, it's actually done the opposite. Like more, I guess they see like credibility in me, and the people that know, like, and trust you, they will come no matter what. And then you just grow this other niche. So
You're not
it's been really
losing
cool.
that other business. You're not losing your friend who's your age and is selling their first house and buying the next house because they don't think that's what you do.
Correct. I'm winning them and their parents, which is so great. It's very great.
So let's jump into the social media side for a little bit. And tell me, like, we've talked a little bit about, that first year you were just doing it when you weren't working, but then jumped in and did 10 million just doing social media. So what's a day in the life of a high level social media poster look like?
Yeah, so I will tell you like what it looked like 6 months ago and what it looks like today, because I had a longtime VA that helped me with admin. And when I sat down and looked at my business and was spending, like most people tell you have to lead gen for 2 hours, I was spending that time on social media, whether it was my post, my newsletter. I do a weekly newsletter, so that's kind of a lot. But I was doing that all myself until very recently. I got rid of my VA that I've had for 4 years that was doing admin and decided to hire a VA that specializes in social media, because that is my one thing. And it is what is driving my referrals outside of my sphere. So now it looks like me giving her a plan and saying, these are all the things I want to post about in the month of August. Please tell me what you need from me. She sends me a list of like, get me this B-roll, these still shots, this type of stuff. And then she creates my post, and they have to be like within my brand guidelines. And it's much better now. However, for 2.5, 3 years of really focusing on it, I was doing it all myself, all from my phone, all inside of the app. So I don't use CapCut. I don't use anything like that. I was just creating everything um, from Instagram. And Instagram is my platform of choice because you mentioned that avatar piece, but like I know the Karas of the world are on Instagram because they are sandwich generation moms ranging from 35 to 55. And that is the largest user pool of Instagram. If you want to work with first time homebuyers, you're probably going to be on TikTok or even Snapchat, which is so bizarre. So I know that my audience, being that sandwich generation mom that has children and aging parents, they're on Instagram. So I really focus on one platform. I link everything to Facebook because it's convenient, but I'm not on TikTok. I haven't mastered YouTube. I'm not on Pinterest. I just picked one platform and went really deep with it.
Obviously, it's been working for you for the social media side, regardless of whether you think it looked good or was bad or quality versus any of that stuff. Why change it? I mean, I guess I'm also wondering, like, if I'm out in the world as a realtor listening to this now, do I need to go hire a VA to make it look really cool, or can I just do what you
It was
did
not about the
3 or 4 years ago and just drop stuff out there and put it out there, and just as long as I'm doing that consistently, could I potentially still get the same results as you?
Yeah, 100% you can do it without a VA. My thing was that I had a VA for admin that I was having to hold their hand, and I moved responsibilities around. So when I hired my partner, my mom, she took on a lot of the stuff that my VA was doing, and I had this budget for a VA. So I looked at where else can I get my time back, and that was one of the places. At minimum, I have one post go out every day. Usually it's more because I'm doing stuff for fun while I'm walking or while I'm at a red light, which I shouldn't admit to. But now, like, really, I just wanted to reallocate those VA funds to something that was causing me a lot of time so that I could free up more of my time.
What advice can we give to agents that are out there that do some social media but really want to do what you're doing and generate 100% of their business through social media? What should I do?
Yeah. So the cocktail party analogy is my number one piece of advice. Like, remember, it's called social media. You have to talk to people. There's a business guru named Sharon. I never know how to pronounce his last name, but he has a podcast called the Business School Podcast. And he had this funny reel that went super viral, and he said, like, do not call your clients to check up on them. Nobody wants you to call them and check up on them. What they do want you to do is meet them where they are on Facebook. So when you're using, or on social media, not, he didn't say Facebook, on social media, but like for an example on Facebook, when you are on there, don't just give the thumbs up because like that's weird, but always be the one that leaves a meaningful comment with a question, because if you leave a question, they have to respond, and if they don't, then they're just a jerk. But also when you leave questions, people just want their opinion to be heard, so like other people will answer you in the thread. So let's say you post a picture of one of your, I think I actually did do this once because you are traveling to some really cool places. You post a picture with your family in Turks and Caicos or wherever you went recently. And I'm like, oh my gosh, tell me all about that resort. I have a document that I save all my friends' inspiring trips. What was this one called? You're not going to see that and just be like, screw Gretchen. You're going to tell me. And maybe some of your friends who I've never met, they're going to be like, have you heard of this? Like everybody wants their opinion heard. So I find when I leave a question, the person that I want to interact with is responding, but a lot of times I'm getting randos responding. And as soon as somebody responds to me on an open form, I have the green light to DM them in my mind. That's how I operate. So like if,
Let me just role play through this. So
yeah,
I post my pictures from Turks and Caicos. You say, where am I? I say I'm at whatever, the Marriott, whatever it was, right? And then a friend of mine says something else, and because they chime in, then you then message them. Do I got that right?
yeah. Hey, thanks so much for chiming in on Dave's post. How recent did your family go there? I'm always looking for great spots. And then I'm just like trying to get to know this person in DMs. If it's like a dude and I'm a married woman, probably not. But like if another like chick is like, oh, have you been? I do this a lot with moms because again, my avatar is mom. So now all my friends that are listening to your podcast will know that I'm just like a disingenuine jerk. But
That's
I
not true
do
for all those people
I
listening.
do I do want to know like all the places. So I'll see somebody post a really cool park or like has a playscape and I'm like, "Wait, is that not the one in Forest Park? Because it doesn't look like it. Where is that one? I need to put it on my list." And they'll always respond. And then maybe two or three other moms will be like, "Oh, have you been to da da da? Have you been to da da da?" So that's my number one piece of social media advice is like use social media to be social. Another way to think of it that resonates with a ton of people. Recently, my 5-year-old had a huge fit because my husband put a lock on YouTube TV. He thought our TV was broken because he had to watch commercials. He called me in, Mom, the TV is broken. And I was like, buddy, you can't fast forward. This is just regular people TV, not YouTube TV. And it was a huge aha that like consumers of content want to see the show. They don't want to see the commercial. So anytime it looks like a branded, you put your logo, you get on Canva, you spend so much time to make it look like the Nation's Network Realty or whatever the Nation's Network just sold. That is a commercial. Anytime anybody posts a picture in a title company, they said yes to the address. That is a commercial. But if you are able to get B-roll of a senior's feet, but you can just tell a granny's shoes, and then tell me the story about the last time that grandma walked out of her house and you're so honored to be the navigator of that transaction, that's going to do so much better and resonate way better. So treat social media like a cocktail party and tell a story. Don't give us commercials because everybody wants to fast forward through a commercial.
Curious, with you curating information from people through those posts like you were talking about, have you ever then actually taken that and put it on a post and be like, hey, I've got all the best playgrounds in all of St. Louis because I've asked this question to somebody and then 30 other people told me about all these places, or staying somewhere in Turks and Caicos, going back to that example or whatever. If you actually do that, that would be an interesting post in
I
general.
have one right now. July is Disability Pride Month. June is like Pride Month. I think the organizers of Disability Pride Month like are trying to spin off of that, but it's really just highlighting all sorts of disabilities, seen and unseen. And so I did pull some of my past clients. Right now I have 3 clients that are wheelchair users, and I just asked them like, what are the most accessible restaurants you've been to in St. Louis? And I put a accessible spots like freebie out, and it's a call to action on multiple July posts. And so that is like a strategy. I mean, we all have heard of a mofer. make offer for immediate response or lead magnet, but I call it IRL to URL because we don't own these apps. So I'm constantly trying to get people from URL online to IRL in real life. And by offering something like that, a list or a value add, I'm able to get their information and take them off the app. So yes,
So
great idea.
it sounds like it. Okay, so then the next question I have for you is, you've mentioned your avatar, and you're very, I
Hmm.
mean, just listening to talk about all this today, you're obviously very laser focused in on how you're doing this. And I'm thinking like, man, this is amazing. And I've been doing this for 17 years and I would still feel, listening to you, I still feel like I'm all over the place. So, and I think most agents are in that, they're doing the open house, they're door knocking, they're networking, they're cold calling, they're expired, whatever the thing is, right? But yours is very laser focused. And then now you even got this avatar, which I would say is even more laser focused because you're targeting a very specific thing. And again, as agents, especially when the market starts to slow down, like we've started to see, right? People are like, I just need to get business, right? But you're staying the course. So how did you come up with the avatar? How do you do that? How do you market around it? There's a lot there, but if I'm trying to kind of emulate what you're doing and want to create my own avatar, what do I do?
Yeah, so the very first question you should ask in your avatar is who do you want to work with? And I will say it's much harder for people like yourself with huge teams, networks, different verticals where you have different businesses under one brand because you have multiple avatars. So for somebody that is an agent and you want to identify, or just a small business owner, who your ideal client is, and that has to be so specific. And it sounds kind of snooty, but like, what price point is this person buying or selling in? What kind of car do they drive? Where do they shop? Like, my avatar is shopping at Trader Joe's. They are not shopping at Aldi because Aldi is a pain in the butt and I don't want Aldi shoppers. I shop at Aldi every now and then, but like, I shouldn't have to bring a quarter to get my cart. So it just has to like be so specific on the type of people you want to work with, and then you build it from that. So my avatar is very much so a former version of myself, somebody that was in that hit the crap moment in life of like, okay, life really threw us lemons and we got to think quick. And when you have to think quick and you are a 35 to 55-year old, you're not going to go Google and read everybody's reviews. You're going to find who pops up first and who's giving the most value and the quickest answer. That's how I approach mine, but you really have to think about the type of person you want to work with before you can establish that fake avatar, if you will. Who is the ideal client?
Oh, also, though, listening to this, how do I get over the fact that, or limiting belief that I'm going to lose business? If I'm targeting this one person that only shops at Trader Joe's, that's 35 years old, she's female, she drives a white Honda Accord. I don't know, I just made it. No, probably
Yeah, I
minivan,
know.
whatever.
No minivan.
But then there's everyone else, so my immediate thought listening to this is like, what happens when that's all the people think? And I know you sort of addressed that earlier, but how did you get over that from a mindset standpoint? Because I do think there's that immediate block of like, if I start putting that out there, that's all people are going to think about me.
Yeah, so I would challenge you to think about anytime. So I'm not talking about like comical barstool stuff, but anytime that you've sent somebody a post or an article from someone, you are likely explaining it of like, oh, okay, I'm car shopping right now. I told you we're expecting a third. The car mom, she crushes at this. If you don't follow the car mom, you could go learn a lot from her. She has 600,000 followers. She's from the Sun Truck family in St. Louis, and she made car buying accessible for women, something that it's never been before. And she provides so much value and she knows her avatar so well. I don't know where I was going with this, but
How you laser focus in on the fact that
yeah,
you're okay, that you maybe, or get over the fact that you might be losing business because you're just
yeah.
focused on this one thing.
So like if I'm sending somebody a thing from the car mom, I'm saying like, oh, here's this chick that specializes in cars for moms. Like she doesn't have to show me the Bugatti or the race cars. She is like focused on full-size SUVs, minivans, crossover, mom cars. Like that is so niched within the auto industry, but it works for her. You're not sending somebody a post of like, oh, here's this person that specializes in all these things, but they had this one thing. You're remembering people who are so focused on one thing. So we've all heard the saying, when you speak to many, you sell to none. But when you speak to one, you sell to many. And that's just been my experience. And I have like toyed with growing faster and like scaling larger, but it's just not for me in this like stage. But I've had so many more opportunities to grow my business and more opportunities to do more things when I speak to that one audience. So it's just a mindset blocker that you have to push through and know that people that know, like, and trust you are going to come to you no matter what. And when you build that expertise, you're going to sell to many. I guess a really dumb down, easy way to look at it is when you go to your dermatologist, you're paying more money. Your copay is more expensive than your primary care physician because they are a specialist and people pay more for specialists. And so you get
Like
less
that.
pushback on your commission. You get less pushback. You get more come list me's. You get more tell me what to do because you hold yourself as an expert in something.
Enough. I like that. And it definitely seems like because of what you focused on, you've gotten people that knocked on your door and said, "Hey, come help us with this," with the new dwell safe that you talked about and your previous,
Yeah.
role at the W-2 job. Like those were all very specific that reached out to you based on what you're promoting and sharing. So while it does seem very narrow, it's opened up some pretty large doors for you. So then what is next for you?
Ooh, what is next? I'm having a baby, figuring out how to keep my business where it is, if not grow a little bit. And I'm also doing a fun passion project right now. I'm writing a book with
Or is it just chat GPT?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm leading an anthology. So I am compiling a book full of occupational therapy entrepreneurs that have gone in non-traditional routes in order to spread the story larger and maybe lay the groundwork for another course or building a team of people like me around the country. But it's also just really fun and a fun way for me to network and work with a publisher that I met. So those are the things I'm working on right now.
Exciting. So, a couple last questions for you before we wrap. What is the funniest thing that's ever happened to you in your real estate career? Or maybe the weirdest, either whatever direction you want to go with that question.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned like my kids being a mom in real estate. We used to live in South City, and most neighborhoods in South City are great. And an agent, again, this goes back to like, how did you make it at the beginning? I was willing to do anything for anyone. And there was an agent in our office, and she knew that I lived very close to a duplex that she was listing. So she asked if I would co-list with her because she lives nowhere near this duplex. So I got a 50-50 co-listing opportunity. One of the tasks that I was tasked with is meeting the photographer on picture day. I bring my less than 1 year old, I bring a baby, put her in the stroller. We walk to the duplex because I lived that close and it just reeks of marijuana. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think like I'll leave my baby out here because, can't leave your kid on the sidewalk. And so I text the agent who has the primary listing and I just say, like, it smells really heavily of weed. Are you sure it's okay that we go in and get these photos? And she was like, yes, the landlord said that they know we're coming, the lockbox code, blah, blah, blah. So I get my kid, we barge in, and there's like 10 people sitting in a circle just doing very bad things. Felt so bad for bringing my kid into this environment. And they were kind and cool, but I was like mortified and had to like figure out how to tell my husband, like, I brought our kids to a drug house today and I'm really sorry about it. So that was the weirdest thing that ever happened to me.
Did you sell it or was the price too high?
We sold it. We did sell it,
Bad dad
but
joke.
good pun. Yeah.
But so you did end up selling it though. I didn't know if you walked out of there and you're like, I can't do this. I'm done. Sorry. You can have the listing back or
The photographer that we used at that time, she's no longer doing photography, but she was like a spitfire and I told her and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Gretchen, you get this baby out of here. I got this handled." And so she like barged in, asked everybody to step outside while she took her photos. I think had like a COVID mask in her car and just got it done.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so last question. If people want to get a hold of you and have more questions for you on any of the stuff we covered today, how do they find you?
Yeah. So Instagram is the best place to find me, and it's just my name at Gretchen Kingma with an underscore, because there's another Gretchen Kingma floating around without an underscore. They've never posted anything, but the name was not available. So Gretchen Kingma underscore on Instagram, or my website is empoweredhomes.com.
And this has been awesome. Appreciate you coming on today and sharing all these great nuggets. Congrats on all your success and everything you have going on, and on that,
Thank you.
your future baby, number 3 on the way. And for all of our listeners out there and followers, thanks for watching us and following along. And stay tuned for another great episode of Realty Resilience. Thanks, Gretchen. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Realty Resilience. Be sure to join our free Realty Resilience Facebook group, where real estate professionals connect, share strategies, and access resources. You can also follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insights. And remember, we release new episodes every 2 weeks. See you next time.